he recorded his new video interviewing one of his friend from one of his friend was working with Disney, and they would like to share their experience. And Tom is in California right now and celebrating his vacation with his family. So they would like to share this video to all of us. So here's the video.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Painter. Thank you so much for joining with us. Thank you for being part of our world. Thank you for being part of our foundation. As you know, we teach kids, teens, young adults, and adults about success and money. Well, because you didn't learn it in school. We have students all over the world that are making a huge difference. And it's you that are making the big difference. You're the ones that are telling other people. The word of mouth is what makes this all go. You know, Disney said, do what you do so well that people will come back again and again, and they will bring their friends. So today I've got a guest on with me. This is Pam, and she worked with Disney for many years. Now she's one of the managers at one of our favorite hotels. So if you're going to come to Anaheim, I want to make sure that you stop at the Sonesta Hotel on Manchester, because that's where we come all the time. Say hello to Pam and the team, everybody. So I want to talk a little bit about Walt, and I'm going to ask Pam some questions about Walt. But as you know, Walt Disney had some failures. He had his own bankruptcy early on, and he had he started his business, it didn't quite go, and he actually had a bankruptcy. But that didn't stop him. He knew what he wanted to do, and he wanted to make sure that it happened. He had a fascination with art, he had a fascination with animation, and he got together with his brother and started basically what is now the Disney Empire. But it started out humbly, very humbly, and they had some real challenges. And the reason that he hired his brother is because everybody was out of work and he needed a job. So instead of finding a job, they decided that they needed to work together, and that's how they started. And they started very humbly. One of the things that they did is that they used to do cartoons, and one of his most famous characters was Oswald the rabbit. But you know what? In the small print, they found out that they didn't actually own the rights to Oswald the rabbit. So he was on a train back east, met with the guy that was doing the distribution of it, found out that he didn't own the character any longer, and he just vowed that he wasn't going to have that happen to him ever again. And so he was on the train with his wife, and he was doodling, and he came up with this mouse figure, and he was going to call this mouse Mortimer Mouse. And Walt's wife said, you know, how about Mickey? How about Mickey Mouse? And that's what they came up with. And so they started all over again from scratch, and they had some real hard times. They got a few lucky breaks on some of the animation that they were doing, some of the earlier animation that they were doing cartoons. And then he had the idea that he wanted to do a feature, a full-length feature. And people said, well, if people watch a cartoon for the whole hour and a half, their eyes are going to go buggy. It's going to hurt their eyesight. So he had all kinds of things. See, that's what a pioneer does. That's the guy that's on the front end. You know, the pioneer, the trailblazer, the guy that's through the door first usually has the arrows in their back, but they also are the ones that make the biggest difference because he saw something different that other people didn't see. And so they got started, and they started working on different things, and they had some success in the movie business, cartoons. And then he got this crazy idea one day that when he was out with his daughters, because Saturday was Dad's Day, and so he was out with his daughters at the merry-go-round, and they were going around and around and around, and he was kind of eating peanuts there. He goes, I wonder if I could create something for families. And that's where the idea hatched of Disneyland. Now, when they started working on Disneyland, they were going to put it up by their studios in Burbank, but there just wasn't enough room. And so they came down to Anaheim, which was basically all orchards. There was a freeway coming right through there and an off-ramp on Harbor Boulevard. And they bought as much land as they could afford. You know, if you do it today, you would buy every piece of land you had and then sell off the rest of the land and help it develop the rest of your park. And they started working on Disney. Now, what was amazing is that he was doing the Wonderful World of Disney on TV. And so he got a chance to, and his deal with them is whatever he does, he got to keep. anything that he created. And he could say anything that he wanted and build anything he wanted because he went to the worst station that needed him the most at that time. I believe it was NBC. And they gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. And he started talking about this crazy idea of Disneyland. Now, Disneyland had this crazy idea that he could get the first phase of that built in a year. And so every week they were talking about Disneyland on the Sunday night, Wonderful World of Disney. And as you know, he would show all kinds of clips, and he had this great idea of what he was going to build. But the real guy that really made it happen that you never ever hear about is his brother, Roy. See, Walt was incredibly creative. He had these great ideas, but it was Walt and Roy together that made it work. Without the two of them, it never worked. Disney would have never worked because it was Roy that was making everything else happen while Walt had the time to be creative. And so it was the team. So that's what you got to have as you're building your small businesses. You got to have a team of people. Find out what you do, because 20% of what you do gets you 80% of your results. And you need to find a team around you that can do what they do the best, so that allows you to spend all of your time in that 20%. Well, the short story was that they got the thing built, and what was kind of funny is that they had all kinds of places that weren't finished. There was a whole hill of weeds on one of the corners of the park. And so he got some signs. He wrote down what the name of the weed was, but in Latin. And then he posted these signs in these undeveloped areas like, hey, this is something fancy. This is a fancy area we got here. But in reality, it was just a bunch of weeds. He had to get real creative on what they did. Now, on opening day, you know, they didn't have all the technology that we have today. They had to string all this cameras and wiring and hook it all together. And they had all these things going on. And they shot the day, and they called it Black Sunday because they were only supposed to have a very small number of people in the park. But somebody did something very ingenious, but they printed a bunch of extra free tickets to get into opening day. They counterfeited it. And as a result, they had thousands and thousands and thousands of more people in the park than they needed to. But it was a success. Roy was just wondering, is there any way we're going to be able to get this thing done? Because their original budget was $1.7 million to build Disneyland. And Walt just kept adding and adding and adding. And everything, it just kept adding up. And so people would get all these bills and they just shove them in drawers because they didn't want anybody to know that they'd ran up all these bills. Because Walt wanted what he wanted. And when they opened, the bill was $17 million. That was 10 times what they had budgeted for. Now, luckily, it was an instant success, and they had thousands and thousands of people, and they have thousands and thousands of people every day that go through that park. Walt wanted his train. He used to do all these trains. And so he wanted a train at Disneyland. But you know what? They didn't have enough money. So what did he do? He financed the train himself. He financed the monorail himself. And in fact, the family owned the monorail and the train personally because they didn't have enough money when Disney was built. So, but he wanted what he wanted, and he knew how to get it. And so that's what he did. So Disney opened up. It was a success, but it was a long, hard drive getting there. And when they made some money off of a movie, then they would add more money to one of the parks. So after a couple of the early movies came out, they were successful. They took that extra money and they put it someplace else. You know, Walt and Roy really didn't make much money off Disney. They had to sell so much of the company off to keep adding more money to build what they wanted to build. And they really didn't make a lot of money on Disneyland. Michael Eisner made a fortune. All these other guys later made a fortune off of what Walt and Roy created. But he built something and his name's on it, and it's a legacy, and it's been around now for 100 years. Now, I want to introduce my good friend Pam. Pam's here with me, and we are here at Disneyland. I've got my kids here. As you know, I have the 2 special needs children, and they absolutely love Disney. Now, when I go to Disney, I look at how they do stuff. How's the methodology? How's the mechanics? How did they pull that off? My son takes pictures. He'll take probably 400 pictures while he's in the park because he finds things he loves, signs. He'll run up to somebody. Yesterday when we were in the park, he ran up to a guy that was in a uniform, guy named Ryan that was on the bus, and he took a picture of Ryan. I mean, it's just 180 degrees difference between what happens when we go to the park with my two special needs kids. But he absolutely loves it. So when I go, I look, gosh, how did they move those people through there? How are they making their money? How are they doing things? And then you know what? You do that in your small business. You learn from other people. And then you learn how they did it. And then you put your content, you put your product in that delivery system. So I'm here with Pam. Now, the reason I brought Pam in here is because we're staying at this hotel that we were liking. She's one of the managements there, but she actually told me that she'd worked there for many years. And so I got a chance to ask her some questions, and I knew that you guys would like to understand about how they do what they do. And there's a great book that's called Be Our Guest that you can go to Amazon and buy, or even eBay and buy. And as you know, the Success Money Foundation, our purpose and our goal is to teach you about success and money principles. Because if you can figure out how to be successful, the money naturally comes. Now, there's a lot of great tricks and strategies that you want to do with your money to get your money working for you. But the first thing is you got to be successful. And the way you become successful is you study successful people. The way you make more money is you study successful people, you solve bigger problems, and you add more value. So if you look at Disney, they've done all three of those things. Disney studied all the other successful parks out there, and everybody told him it was crazy to do it the way he did it because he charged an admission to it. Coney Island was the only other real big park. You know, Tivoli Gardens in Denmark had been around many, probably 30, 40 years longer than Disney, and he loved to travel. So Walt traveled all over the world to get ideas. And one of the great ideas he got was some Tivoli Gardens. And he walked into Tivoli Gardens, and of course he had these films that were out there. And so he started asking them questions. And of course they showed him around, and he got some wonderful ideas. So he took the best ideas of everything. He was even in Switzerland.
So we got the Matterhorn.
He was in Switzerland, and they saw the big Matterhorn. And I think he got a postcard, drew it all out, sent it back to California, and says, build me one of these.
That's what we have.
So that's how they got the Matterhorn. And the Matterhorn did two purposes. One, it hid one of the big pillars because they had the sky ride that would go through it, and he wanted to hide that. So he put it right inside the mountain. So when you find problems, you just figure out how to solve them.
Go around.
You figure out how to solve them, and then he plussed it. And the big thing he used to say is, we got to plus this. We got to make it better. You got to make it better. We got to make it better, because we are our own competition, and everybody's looking in a rear view mirror. Okay, so one of the things we want to talk about is the book called Be Our Guest. Now I've got Pam here with me, and she worked there for many years. What were some of the secrets? They're not really secrets. They're really good business things that people do that made Disney successful from your point of view.
So Disney, it's hard to say.
So Disney had some amazing ideas, you know, and some of the stuff is you just start right when you walk through the park. Now you take all the staff there. What are some of the things they told the staff to be wary of?
Well, when you're a cast member with the park, you are a cast member. You are on show. You are not a you're not really a staff. You're part of the show. You're part of the show. You are there to show people, express how that you want to be. You're dressed in a costume. Everybody gets a costume. You don't have to worry about wearing street clothes. Everybody wears a costume, whatever land they're in, whatever position they're in. When you wear your costume, you are part of the show. You tell people, you'll walk up to somebody, you can walk up to a little girl and say, "Good morning, princess." You want to talk to them to give them the experience of being in the park. It's a magical land. Everything outside of Disney is to stay outside of Disneyland. Once you're inside the park, you are in the magic of Disney. And that's the way it is. We don't want outside coming in. You want everything to be inside.
And what's amazing is do you know why you never see a character that is over in Fantasyland over into Frontierland? Tell them about the corridors.
Because everything, well, underground. Everything is underground. So you don't see when people move from place to place. There's a whole world underground.
So that's how they get people around.
You shouldn't be, and they should not be in costume for one land and walk through to another land. You should be going around the back. There's trams that move employees from place to place. So you should not ever see a Star Wars land employee or cast member in Main Street. because that's
Not
not
supposed to
where
be
they
there.
go. They don't belong there.
So he had a problem. How am I going to solve that problem? Well, I can't just move them around. I'm just going to take them underground.
I'm going to take them underground. I'm going to move food underground. That's how they move product. That's how they move different items throughout the park, is all through underground. Or like I said, behind the burbs where no one can see them.
Okay. So he had a problem. So what did he do? He found a different solution.
A solution to it.
And he did it very, very differently. Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind as they trained the staff about how to treat their clients and their customers?
You're going to treat them with respect. You will treat everybody with respect. If it's a child, you get down to their level. If it's a special needs person and they're in a wheelchair, you don't talk down to them. You get to their level to talk to them. Many times I'd go sit out on the sidewalk outside of Showcase, and I had a special needs boy that used to come all the time. I would go sit outside with him on the ground because that's where he sat, and we would talk. You have to engage the guest. Engage the guest, talk to them, and find out, about your person that's here with visiting. They may be here for the very first time. I don't know how many times I had people that were in their 50s and 60s that have never been to Disneyland. Never. And you're like, how could you have never gone when I've been going since I was 4 or 5 years old? But that's how it is. There's some people who've never come. They've saved all their money for so long to come. They need to have the most magical experience.
So when you come through Disney, you go through the turnstile after you've paid, you see the big picture of Mickey right there and the train. Now you'll notice something very interesting. He created it so you have to go through one of two sides, and it was like, as soon as you get through there, it's like the curtain opening.
For the show.
And the show's beginning.
The show is beginning.
And you come right down there and you start walking down through Main Street, and they do some really fun tricks on it. So they did it so that the castle had a certain illusion to it that it was far away. Because you're going to go a long way. And he learned that when he was doing all these films. But when you're coming back, the train station, everything is really tall. So it looks like it's just around the corner. Now, what's really interesting is you're walking down Main Street. You'll notice that all the windows have names in them.
Yep.
So tell us about some of those names.
So there is, oh my gosh, the Schwartz brothers are there. There is a door on the right-hand side that is for cast members. I have my picture standing in front of the sign with the cast member sign. I think Annette Funicello's is up there now. Hers has come up. There's different Imagineers that have been within the company, different prominent people within the company. That
Well,
have
a lot of people
there.
that really helped in
That
the early,
really
in the
helped
early
him
days.
to do it, yes. And you also, as you're going down Main Street, you walk in front of the Candy Palace. They're going to pipe out smells of
They
candy.
are. They're
Yes.
shipping.
That's how they get you in there. So you smell the food. You walk down to another area, you'll smell popcorn. And that's all part of the show. They'll have you in front of the Candy Palace. They're in the window making chocolate. Okay, they're making it. I want to go get one of those. And that's how they do it. He was a very smart man. He knew exactly what he was doing.
And also the sounds.
The sounds, the music.
The music.
The
Tell
music.
us about the music.
So you learn when you're on Main Street, that's where I worked. You know the track, you would hear it all day long, and you knew exactly what song was going to come up next. It's good because you hear the one music in one land. As you're moving to another land, the ground changes, the trash cans change, the scenery changes. As you're moving into another area, the music will change. What you see will change. So it's all goes from land to land.
Now, what's interesting is that as with especially son of mine, I've got some really big friends and players that know Disney. But as you walk in the park and go to the center, and then you've got all these different lands, and so we build everything on a hub and spoke. And so as you come in, you make a first left turn, you head over towards the boats and to Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion. But very few people know about Club 33. So Club 33, so you didn't even know I knew about Club
yes,
33.
I've been there many times.
So Club 33 was a special club that he created for some of his guests that were very important to him and stuff like that. And it's a special club. And here's a little trivia for you. There's only one place in Disney that ever served alcohol, and it had to be on a street. Do you know that street?
No.
Royal Street.
Oh,
That's
Royal
right.
Street from New Orleans.
He had to get a liquor license for
For Royal
Disneyland
Street.
for some of his guests.
That's right.
And so he put it on Royal
Royal
Street,
Street,
which
yep.
is right there in
Club
New Orleans.
33, yeah, in New Orleans.
So
yeah.
I stumped somebody.
Yes, I
I
didn't know that.
I stumped it
Yeah,
right there.
very
Oh,
cool. That is a very cool place to go. Yes.
so what's
Very
amazing,
special.
what's amazing about these different rides and everything else is they're not rides, they're attractions.
They're attractions.
Just
There's
look
only
at the
one
word.
ride.
One word, it's not a ride, it's an attraction because he wants to attract you. Look at the words he's using, attraction. And Walt passed away at an early age. He was in his mid 60s, about 66, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly. He wasn't very
1960.
old. And one of the things that it was is that Walt had some habits that probably weren't good for him. He smoked. He
Yep.
was a smoker and he drank. And that was just one of his vices. And he says, you know what? Me as an individual, I smoke and drink, but the real Walt Disney, he doesn't smoke and drink because he's somebody else. Because
Right.
in his mind, he says, this is who the person needs to be. This is who the person is going to act like. And so he created this new persona of him, which was and that's what you're going to do. You take pieces of people that you love that are doing great things, and you say, I'm going to be like that. I'm going to be like Walt. And this is what I love about Walt. And so I'm going to act like Walt. I'm going to act like Roy. I'm going to act like this other person. And that's how I've created my life, is that I've created myself from different people. And so as you're coming down the left lane, we're just going to do a quick through the park, but you look at Pirates of the Caribbean. And I think that was actually the last attraction that Walt really worked on,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, he worked, that was the last one he worked on, yeah.
Now, what's amazing is that people think that with Walt being gone, that the place would collapse. Well, Walt didn't build Disneyland. Walt and Roy built a company that built Disneyland.
Mhm.
Steve Jobs did not build the iPhone. Steve Jobs and Tim Cook built a company that built the iPhone. Warren Buffett did not run Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger built a company that did all these wonderful investments. That's why when Walt passed away, it continued to grow. In fact, some of the things that kept Walt and Roy back, which we as customers loved, it was very inexpensive to get into Disneyland. As soon as Michael Eisner walked in there, the first thing they did was
Raise the
jack up
price.
the prices
Yep.
dramatically.
Mhm.
They took the vault of all these great Disney movies that they'd bring back every 7 years because they knew there was a new generation every 7 years. Michael Eisner said, hey, guess what? Video's out. And they took everything in the vault and they pushed it out all over the world, and they just made a fortune doing it. And good for them, because that gave everybody. My son on his bookshelf has probably 20 or 30 different of his favorite videos, because that's his world. My special needs autistic son, that's his world. He just loves Disney. And so we got all those crazy things. Okay, so you go through there, and he's created all these wonderful rides and all these great attractions.
There's only one, there was only one
All
ride,
right, now you gotta-
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. That is the only ride. Everyone else is an attraction.
Okay,
Did
so
you know that?
no, but it
Yes.
makes sense because we
Yes.
were last night. I sat right in Mr. Toad's little car waiting for my
Yes.
kids on the carousel.
Yep, Mr. Toad's Wild
So there's
Ride.
only one ride when
And
you go.
everything else is an attraction.
So talking about that little land right there where Mr. Toad's at, when they were building that, he built the castle. Now, here's something interesting about the castle is that he was at Neuschwanstein, which is in Germany. That's Mad King Ludwig. I've been to that castle. And when they were building the castle, because he wanted to create a castle, they built it, and it was the front. And he modeled it after Mad King Ludwig's castle. And Walt looked at it, he went around the back, he picked it up and turned it 180 degrees backwards. And that's what Mad King Ludwig's castle looked like from the backside, and that's what's the front side. You didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
See, I'm even stumping somebody
I
that was at
didn't even
Disney
know
for all
that.
those years.
I didn't know that.
But when they made a little bit of money with one of the earliest films, I think it was probably Snow White,
I think that was one of the first, yeah.
they had some extra money. So what did Walt do? He took that extra money and he put it into Disneyland, and that's where they built out the carousel and all those little rides right there for those kids and everything else. So they got some money, and that's where they put it all. And so it was just amazing. Walt was so in debt. After the $17 million, they cashed in their life insurance, they cashed in everything. And one day the bankers were calling him and just giving him crap, because they were spending all this money on a feature-length movie.
Right.
And they were giving them just all kinds of crap that, you know, if this thing doesn't work, we're going to bankrupt you and we're going to do everything, all this other stuff. And then one day Roy comes into him and they're all worried about it. And then Roy just starts laughing. He picks up the phone. I don't know if it was Roy or Walt. It's probably Roy. Picked up the phone and called back the bank and says, you guys just leave us alone. Just shut that crap up. You know, you're the idiots that loaned us the money. If this thing doesn't work, you're in more trouble than we are. So just leave us alone. We know what we're doing. We've tested this out with the marketplace and we know what we're doing, and just leave us alone. But they gambled it. But they knew they had a great product because they saw people's reaction. They did market testing and they got all these people that would go through there and they saw what they were doing and they were very, very successful with it. And then they started really cranking it all up there. So that's really kind of the story. What are some other things that kind of come to mind as you think about Disney?
Well, Disney never is the same. His other thing was he wanted it to keep evolving. I personally would love for them to bring back the People Mover. That was something that I remember when I was little. And I think that we should build a whole nother park that is just all old rides for all of us old people. Wow. But that's, yeah, because the People Mover, the Sky Baskets, which are gone now, Inner Space, remember Inner Space sitting in there, which is now Star Tours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he never wanted it to be the same. He wanted it to evolve and move. That's why we have Star Wars Land now.
Yeah.
Which is for the younger generation who watches Star Wars, but for the older generation who remember Han Solo and Chewbacca back when it was the 70s, wasn't it? It was the 70s because
So I have a trivia for you.
Uh-huh.
There's something on the castle that they did specifically so that the park would never be completed.
No, I don't know.
Ha! Stumping you.
Yeah, I don't know.
All the spears are painted, you know, the spires, except for one, because it will never be completed because we're always evolving.
Always evolving.
What Roy and what Walt really hated was when he finished the movie, it was all edited, then it's done. I can't do anything with it. It's just done. I can't plus it. His word was plussing it.
Yes.
Whatever I'm doing, I want to plus it. I want to make it better. I want to make it better. And he was obsessed with making it better. And he was obsessed with making the customer have a wonderful experience. So that was one of the words that he used all the time, was plussing it.
Plussing it.
So now next time you go into, look at the castle, come in, look on the left-hand side, and one of the little towers there, one of the rods that's going up is not painted.
I will have to look at that. I will have to look next time I'm in the park. Yeah.
See, I've been to parks so many times with the special needs son that I've learned things more than.
But because they notice things. They look at certain things.
Well, I know that because I'm reading about him all the time. My son's looking at the park and taking pictures of palm trees and the Disney sign and characters, and I'm like, how the crap did he do this? You know, so that was why he did that.
Yeah, but he's never is going to stop. It will always continue to change, and there will be new things for new generations to see. Like I said, they should bring back the People Mover.
They need to have another park that's an old fart park.
That's what they need, the old fart park. Yes, yes. And all the old stuff, because Sky Baskets was amazing. You remember those, don't you?
Absolutely. I was 7 the first time we came to Disney.
I was probably 5. My dad's friend worked there and we used to get free tickets and go. I used to sit in my backyard. We could see the fireworks. I can see them from my house now.
Okay, a little trivia for you. When we started going there wasn't an admission to get in. You bought a book of
a ticket.
Tickets.
And the E's were always the ones you wanted. And my grandma would give us her E tickets, and we would always use the A's and the B's last because that was the
merry-go-round.
No, I think it was the cars down Main Street. They used to have the little fire truck that would go down Main Street. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So that's what the A's and the B's were. Yeah. Yes.
So what happened was you'd buy this book, and this book would have all these tickets in it. And the E-ticket was the best ticket.
Best ride.
The best ride.
Yep.
And there was only a few of those.
Yep.
And now you talk about a problem. So here's one of the things. They wanted to have people be able to do the different rides, and they'd use the tickets up. But then they got the crazy idea. There's so many people in the park where we can actually make a lot more money. We're just going to give you an all-day pass.
Yep.
Go on anything you want for as long as you want. And they jacked up the price dramatically. Their revenue probably tripled.
Quadrupled. Yes.
4 times. Right there on the spot. And then they didn't care how many people in the park. Now, success has been so great that now they have to go the other direction and they have to limit the number of people in the park just because sometimes there was so, I mean, I had one time where we came and we came through the front door, we came through the parking lot, saw so many people there. We went out the exit and went home.
You don't even go in. Yeah.
Because there was just
too many people.
That's where success has been so massive that it was really hard for, I mean, success builds success until it gets so
And your
crazy.
product is in such high demand that you just can't,
You can't do it.
supply and demand.
So what they did is they digitized everything. They took all their product and they put it on film, they put it on video, they put it on streaming. Now they could go out to more and more and more and more people without having to deal with people one-on-one. But the experience really where they're probably their area where they're learning stuff is the park. They're testing stuff. Now you see me running out quizzes and everything else and polls and everything with you guys because it's not what I want. It's what you want. My job's to build what you want. And so that's why we do it the way we do it. Okay, any other crazy ideas or things that kind of come to the top of your head about this?
I'm just trying to think of those others.
Why she's thinking California Adventure. So that used to be the parking lot. So this is so funny. When Disney opened, he hired a organization to do the parking for him. And they were rude, they weren't very nice to people. Within probably 2 weeks, he fired them.
Yeah.
And then brought his own cast in because he wanted people to have that great experience.
From the moment you get through the parking.
Even in the parking lot. Yeah, we want this to be a great.
Everybody's to be treated, yes.
Yeah, as a guest, and
As
that's
a
what they call
guest.
everybody. They have cast and they have guests, and everyone is a guest.
Mhm.
Okay.
How you wanted people to be treated at your home is how you want to be treated there. And that's the way he wanted it. California Adventure, California Adventure was modeled after a amusement park. That's what all the attractions were.
Right.
And then they decided to put in the Marvel Land because when he took over Marvel, so that's over there now. And still got a little bit of the Coney Island kind of attractions, but those are being phased out. Also bringing in new stuff. We just don't have enough room in Anaheim for another park.
So when you talk about Coney Island, when Disney came out with Disneyland, the big park that was successful was on the East Coast, which is Coney Island. Coney Island was dirty. You had all these barkers trying to have you play these games that were rigged, that they knew that they were rigged, so it was hard to win on them and stuff like that. And everybody told Walt that if he builds this park, it's not going to work because they were only used to what Coney Island was.
Right.
Which was dirty and gucky and, slimy. And he says, well, my park's not going to be like that. I'm going to do it 180 degrees opposite that. And I think where he learned a lot of that was at Tivoli Garden.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Copenhagen.
Yep. Because it is, back in the day, you always remember, probably do, you drop something on the ground, there would be somebody behind you right away to sweep it up. Yeah. And that's the way it should be. You should be a clean area for your family to go where you're safe, you feel safe. And it's a very family oriented. He was very much into family orientation.
You can't go 20 feet without finding a garbage can.
No, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. And if you go into Abraham Lincoln and you sit there, there's where he sat on the bench. It's still in there, the bench where he sat with his daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we're in the park. Yep.
So I'm going to tell you how crazy they are. In some of the other parks that they did, they even took the trash cans. And so when you put the trash in, they don't go around and pick up the trash. They I'm going to stump you on this one.
Yeah, I haven't been to
They
any.
actually pull the trash down into the corridors, the utilidors.
Oh, underneath the ground.
And
Yeah.
they freeze it. They get it cold so you can't smell any of it. And then it all gets collected down there. They don't even go trash can to trash can and empty it.
Oh, very interesting. Then they got rid of their custodial. Oh.
No, they do it here.
Oh,
They do it here.
Oh.
But in the new parks, what they built,
yeah.
they were able to build that right in
Very
to the
cool.
system. See, I'm stumping you all over
So
the
you know,
place.
because and Disney was, obviously we know Disney was the first park that he built. I mean, it's never going to be able to expand much more than what it is. There's no land around it. And that's part of the issue. It's small. People go, oh, it's so small. No, it's the original. We are the original. Florida has all that swampland that they were able to use and make it as big as they want it to. So it seems they can accommodate more people because it's so much more wide open.
All right, let's
than
talk
us.
about Florida for just a second. Now, we teach a lot of real estate, and how I funded the foundation was a bunch of real estate that I bought that we donated to the foundation. We put $3 million into the foundation. That was with our real estate and our Berkshire Hathaway stock, Warren Buffett stock. In fact, Berkshire Hathaway was a big stockholder in Disney back in the day. As it was just really ramping up. But when they did Florida, one of Walt's really big peeves was he hated all these cheap hotels that came around here in Anaheim. Because
That's
they
so
didn't-
sad because those are such cute little hotels over there.
They were cute, but they didn't keep his theme and stuff
Right.
like that. They didn't
Right.
have, they didn't even have enough money to build the Disneyland hotel, that they had to do a joint venture with another group
Yes.
because they just didn't have the money. The resources just weren't there. And so when they did Florida, he did something very interesting. They had all these partners that went out that started buying land in this one area
Mhm.
with different names. Nobody knew who was buying all this land.
Interesting.
The Bass Brothers out of Texas did a big chunk of it that loved what Disney was doing. Remember, one time they were also trying to do take over Disney. They were trying to do a break it up and sell off the studios versus the amusement
Right.
parks and stuff like that. And that was really because one of the things Walt did is he wanted it to be a very strong company. Well, Roy did. But that also made it easy for somebody to come take over because it had all these great assets that were undervalued. So when all that was happening, they attracted some wonderful people like the Bass Brothers out of Texas. And Bass Brothers had all this land in Florida. And so they started by piecing all these pieces together, but nobody knew who was buying all of it.
Very interesting.
They bought all this acreage because what Walt wanted to do is he wanted to be able to expand. He wanted to have all of his room because he wanted the theme. When you come through even close to it, Disney, you're in a whole different world. So
Yes.
even the hotels
Yes.
were stuff that they really control.
Yeah.
So in Florida, you got to take a bus. You got to drive 15, 20 minutes from a hotel.
Oh, or you
Literally.
go on the waterway. Don't they have the waterway? I've never been to Florida, so
Yeah,
I
but what I'm
don't
saying
know.
is that the other hotels are outside
The-
of that 27.
The bird.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the
'Cause
bird
I
area.
don't know how many acres they got, but they got a
Yeah.
massive amount of area right there. And they developed all kind of homes and everything else in there. Let's talk about Epcot. You probably know a little bit about Epcot.
I've never been.
Well, I've been many
I've
times.
never
I
been
went there on
to
my
Florida.
anniversary, on my wedding. But Epcot was the experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
No, that was the home of the future at Disneyland.
Yes, but that's what it was called. Now, what Walt's idea was he was going to create a whole different city. Now, unfortunately, Walt passed at a very early age, and he actually had film that he shot talking about the things he wanted to create there. But it was very different. It was because he was always cutting edge. What are the problems? What are the urban problems? What are the people problems? What are the moving? How do we get people from here to there and stuff like that? So that's where they created that one. And then, of course, after he passed away, they decided to make it more of into a traditional park with all the lands and everything else. But pretty amazing stuff. You know, and as Pam was saying, the goal is to take care of your clients. You know, I highly recommend you get that book, you know, Be Our Guest. There's all kinds of books. I've read, I've read a whole bunch of books on Disney because I try to pattern our businesses and my life after Disney. How did he do this? And then you put it into your own world. So you learn from the best. In order to make more money and to be successful, you study successful people. You solve bigger problems. Doctors make more money than nurses do, who make more money than the receptionists do, because doctors solve bigger problems. Walt's had a big problem. You know, Bill Gates, there was a big problem. Elon Musk, there's a big problem, and he solved those problems. And then he's added so much more value. So that's why we love studying Walt and Roy. But you got to go back in and learn about the basics. How did they pull it off to start with? And when you do that, then you start modeling that after your life. Any kind of last comments or words or stuff you want to talk about?
No, but you have to treat your clients or your guests in your business. If it's a business, they're your guest. You want them to come back. You want them to send people to you. So therefore, you need to treat them with respect. Give them what they want. Give the client what they want.
And remember, the client may not always be right, but
No.
the client is always the client.
Yes,
Okay?
yes. They're they're not always right, but yes, you
But they're
still,
always your client.
you're always your client, and you do your best to accommodate or to take care of them. And in the hotel industry, that is another thing you have to do. It's not always, everything's not black and white. There's always going to be a gray area that you have to deal with, always.
And honestly, there are people that's out there to rip you off.
That's what they try to do.
That there are people that do that, and absolutely, and that's not right, and that's terrible. But at the same time, you know, sometimes there are computer issues or other issues that you have to deal with. But the goal is to be an open-minded, and your job is to figure out kind of what happened, and then go try and find a elegant way to solution to fix it. You know, and kind of closing, I'm going to tell you the quote I love about Walt so much. He says, "Do what you do so well that people will come back again and again, and they will bring their friends."
Yep.
Do what you do so well that people will come back again and again, and they will bring their friends. Now, at the foundation, we're just getting started. You know, it took me 3.5 years to build that website. And when I turned 60, I had the opportunity to go run some other really big businesses, or I could walk away from all of it to start this nonprofit foundation. And I was just thinking, you know, what am I going to regret when I'm 70 or 75? I'm going to regret that I didn't work on this foundation. And honestly, I didn't know if the foundation would work. I thought it was going to fail. I really did. I'm okay with failure. I'm not okay with not trying. So I needed to try it. And you guys have made it go. Word of mouth. We now have 12,000 students all over the world, and that's compounding. It's compounding, just like Disney compounds. It takes these wonderful things and it compounds and it compounds. The rule of 72. How long does it take for something to double? And that's what we're building in the foundation. And that's why we're so excited about studying people and making such a huge difference. We've got over 3,500 students to start saving and investing. We sent out 38,000 financial rewards to students. We've got all kinds of students that have now opened their investment accounts and started saving, investing, and thinking very differently. And Make a Difference projects, you guys have done thousands and thousands of those. As you know, for every hour you're in class, the foundation donates a pair of eyeglasses. We're feeding somebody, or we're providing gallons of clean water. This is how you make a difference in the world. That's what these guys did, and that's what you're doing. So I'm so grateful for every one of you. I'm grateful for Pam for being here. She's one of the great hosts here at this hotel. If you're ever back here in Anaheim, go see the Sonesta ES on Manchester.
On Manchester.
That's where we come all the
That's
time.
where we are.
And take care of that. So thank you all so much for watching. Make a difference, make it happen, and remember that every life is precious. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Tom, for that video. And we'll be back to our next segment.